So I think the frequency of the pings have stopped. Oh, there's another one. Have stopped a little bit. So I think we've only got an hour together today. So I think we'll get started and people can join the session and get involved with us. So those of you that have just joined, my name is
and I'll stand right here.
We're going to be recording today's session. I would love you all to put your videos on so we can see each other and interact with each other. Also understand that you may not be in a position or may not simply want to do that, and that's completely fine too. So today it's my absolute pleasure to be here talking to you about a topic that I am hugely passionate about. You'll probably get the sense of that as the session continues. We're going to be talking about inclusive leadership and how it is unlocking collective brilliance. So I wanted to start with a little bit of a teaser, just to get you thinking, what on earth has inclusive thinking got to do with Pringles? So if anyone wants to share their thoughts on that question, please feel free to shout out. Who's got an idea?
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Exactly. I always love asking this question because I've had some amazing replies like, well, my hand is a lot smaller than my husband's and it means that I've got access to Pringles that he can't reach. And, you know, that's kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking about today as well. But that is absolutely the message. And for those of you not in the UK, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Pringles advertising campaign, which may well be some of you, their slogan, their phrase was, once you pop, you can't stop. And it's exactly the same with inclusive thinking. Once you start inclusively, once you start seeing things that you maybe didn't used to notice, everything changes and you see the world in a different way, you act differently, you make differences. So today I am, as I say, going to be talking to you about inclusive leadership. For those of you that have just joined, my name is Marissa Ellis. I'm the founder of an organisation called Diversify. I've spent a good couple of decades, longer than I care to remember, in the tech sector. I have learned a huge amount. I've seen the incredible innovation that comes out of the sector, but I've also seen some of the things that we're doing not so well, some of the things that we could improve, some of the discrimination, some of the exclusion, some of the just suboptimal performance that comes from the way that we have been conducting business. And my mission is around inspiring businesses to be more purpose-led and human-centered, because I believe that's how we can truly unlock our collective brilliance. In today's session, we're going to be talking, it's going to be a whistle-stop tour. We're recording the session for people who couldn't make it here today, but also for those of you who listen to everything I've got to say today and you want to hear it again to just reflect on some of the points that I'm going to be making. The video will be available for you as well. So we're going to be talking about why inclusive leadership matters. Start with the why, always important. We'll talk about the 5 stages to become an advocate for inclusion. We'll talk about what inclusive leadership mindset looks like. What does that forward-thinking leader of the future, what does their mindset need to look like? And I'm going to be talking a lot about mindset today. I'm going to be talking about why unconscious bias training isn't enough and what we need to be doing instead. I'm going to be giving you a roadmap that you can follow to become a better, more inclusive leader. And finally, at the end of the session, with your permission, I'd love to tell you about our upcoming inclusive leadership program, which is kicking off in November. So let's get started. To do that, I invite you all to come into this session with a certain mindset. Now, these behaviors, if you like, are actually behaviors of inclusive leaders. They're how we lead ourselves. It's around being curious, being open-minded and questioning rather than judgmental. It's about being authentic and being yourself and not hiding from your truth. But it's also about being courageous. Talking about diversity and inclusion can be challenging, it can be difficult, and we need to be courageous enough to have some of the maybe more uncomfortable conversations. So with that in mind, I'd like to invite you to give me a thumbs up if your video's on, or a virtual thumbs up if you're happy to come into today's session with that mindset, with those behaviors. So I can see some thumbs up, so thank you. popping up. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That is how we will continue. Amazing. So let's start by just being really clear about what inclusive leadership isn't. Okay, what we're talking about today is culture, not compliance. I'm not here to help HR professionals tick boxes. I'm not talking to you about avoiding costly lawsuits or even making you feel guilty or talking about political correctness. What I'm talking about today is about culture. It's about humans and how we interact together. And the work that we do at Diversify, as I mentioned, it's all about unlocking collective brilliance. And there are these untapped keys for success that we haven't been leveraging. It's all about purpose, embedding purpose into your organization, leveraging diversity and inclusion, and working together to drive this collective aspiration. And the work that we do is around developing inclusive leaders who empower rather than command. We help organizations build cultures of belonging that accelerate progress rather than prohibit it. And we help organizations develop strategies that inspire, not confuse. Now, if you're interested in taking a holistic view of your team, of your organization, on our website, there's a culture check sort of self-assessment quiz you can do, which is really about provoking thought. So if you want to take that holistic view, I'll share, I've put a bunch of links that I think you'll find useful in, and I'm going to share them all in the chat just because I don't want to keep stopping and pausing to find different links for you. So the culture check is going to be one of the links that I'm about to share with you. But today we're diving into that top layer, which is all about leadership. And specifically, we're talking about inclusive leadership. So let me start by telling you what inclusive leadership is. So we're all on the same page in terms of what we're talking about. So it's all about creating an environment where everyone can thrive. In lifting others, we rise. Inclusive leadership is about creating an environment of involvement, respect, and connection where the richness of ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to create business value and impact. So what we're talking about is creating an environment where everyone can thrive, where we can create more value and we can create more impact. We create a positive dent in the world, and people are happy and healthy in doing that. Now, Deloitte have done lots of research on the topic, as you would imagine, and I'm not going to take you through it in detail. It's readily available online if you're interested. But I did want to share at a high level the top strengths of inclusive leaders, so that just to, again, get you thinking around what does it mean to be an inclusive leader? What are some of the things that I could be doing more of? What are some of the things that maybe I'm not doing enough of? So it starts with commitment. It's about being committed to driving more diversity and inclusion and being committed to your values, your inclusive behaviors. As I mentioned before, courage is really important because this is difficult. There's we would have changed the world if it was easy, right? There are some difficult conversations that need to be had. There's some difficult change that needs to happen. We also need to have humility. We need to accept that we're vulnerable and we need to be brave enough to show it. We need to be aware of our biases. We need to have that curiosity, step away from judgment, which is something I mentioned before. And importantly, we need to build our cultural awareness. We need to understand how to work as the world becomes smaller through globalization and technology enabling us to talk to people readily around the world. We need to build that cultural awareness. And then the seventh strength is about collaboration. Inclusive leaders are team players. They're about doing what's right for the team, not what's best for themselves. And I'll be talking, in fact, I'm talking at another session later on today at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to be talking more there around building cultures of belonging and cultures in a hybrid working environment. And this idea of collaboration is critical for that. So one of the tools that I use when I'm working with leaders, with teams, within Diversify, we've had literally hundreds of leaders have been through our inclusive leadership program. And this is often a tool we use as a starting point, just as a way of giving ourselves a language to talk about the journey that we're on, and a way as a bit of a temperature check in terms of where we are. And we call it the Inclusion Awakening. Now, we have run whole workshops where all we do is talk about this slide, and we're not going to do that today because there's a lot of content I want to share with you, and there's other things I want to get through, but I encourage you, if you want to take a screenshot of it, it's a really nice way of opening up conversations with your team. And if you want to join our program, we'll talk more about it, and you'll learn a lot more around how we can use it to take ourselves forward, but also recognize where other people are and bring other people along on that journey. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is share in the chat where you think you are on this inclusion awakening. There's no right or wrong answer. We are where we are. What's important is that we're coming in with an open mind, and we want to take a step forward. So let me just talk you through what the journey is. You start at a position of being unaware, where diversity and inclusion hasn't really been on your radar. That's point number 2. You might move to a position of being opposed, where you feel fearful, you're against change, and you don't think diversity and inclusion would be a good thing. You might move in the other direction, which is where I hope to take you, to a position of being aware, where you're starting to build your knowledge, you're starting to understand why it's important, how different people have different experiences. You then move to a 4, which is about being an ally, where you're actually starting to take action to help others. You're stepping up on behalf of others for problems that are not necessarily your own, to help other people. And step 5 is about becoming an advocate. And becoming an advocate is where you're starting to change mindsets. You're changing systems, and you're galvanizing others to take action, where you're not just helping one individual person, but you're changing your recruitment process to be to counter bias, which means that you're changing a system. You're giving people opportunity. So at this stage, I'd like to just pause for a moment and invite you to share in the chat the number where you think you are. As I say, there's no right or wrong. And also, when you dive into this in a bit more detail, you realize that maybe when you're thinking about gender diversity, you're at a 4, but when it comes to ethnic diversity, maybe you're at a 3, or you can be at different stages for different areas. And even for me, who, I'm an expert in this field, I am always learning. There's always more. There's always new ways of looking at things. There's so many different experiences to understand, and also the landscape is changing. So this is absolutely a journey. So please do share in the chat a number between 1 and 5, where you would position yourself. So I can see that we have lots of 3. Well, we've kind of got it. Or generally, these kinds of open workshops are self-selecting, in the sense that we don't tend to get people who are opposed, because why would you choose to come in a workshop like this? So we tend to get people who are either at multiple stages wanting to make progress. And looking at what you've shared in the chat, that's exactly what we've got today. So we've got some 2/3s, we've got a lot of 3s, and we've got some ambassadors and advocates and allies on the call as well. So that is absolutely fantastic. So it's not easy. Leading inclusively is not easy. And I often hear people expressing some concerns or some challenges. They say that, well, I just don't know where to start, or I'm scared of saying the wrong thing, or it's easier not to say anything at all, or I'm not really sure how to talk about diversity and inclusion within my team. It sometimes feels a bit uncomfortable. And I'm not even really sure what I can actually do, or even what good looks like. So there are a whole host of challenges that leaders are facing. And one of the links that I shared in the chat is an article I wrote. It was 38 reasons why diversity and inclusion is so hard. And you can look at that in your own time, just to get a better understanding of the complexity of the challenge, if you like. But what I want to talk to you is about the opportunity, and why diversity and inclusion is a good thing. And the way that I'm going to do that is not by sort of standing here or sitting here as I am and sharing some slides with you. We're actually going to do an interactive exercise, because I want to show you the power of diverse thinking. So before I do that, I'm going to introduce you to one of our flagship tools at Diversity, which is called the Change Canvas. And the Change Canvas is a visual framework. It's 5 boards on a page. And the Change Canvas helps you, the top half is about strategy and the bottom half is about execution. So in the reflection board, it's all about understanding the why and exploring the context that will frame a mission. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What are the challenges we're facing? What is the context we need to understand that will help us move forward? The vision board is all about mapping out that vision, that grand vision, imagining the future, inspiring and motivating with your vision. And then the progress board at the bottom is about coming up with ideas, filtering and prioritizing those ideas to focus on your next best steps, defining your actions, and then celebrating your results, being clear about your decisions, and sharing your successes, and then iteratively repeating to achieve more. And by exploring the diversity website, you'll see a whole host of, there's an Introducing the Change Canvas course, and there are a whole host of ways in which the Change Canvas can be used to drive individual change or team change, organizational change, ecosystem change. But today we're going to do an exercise in Mural, which is an online whiteboard. And I'm going to share, again, I'm going to just share this set of links with you. The very top link is a link to Mural. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go into the Mural, and I will do the same. And we are going to together talk about, we're going to do an exercise called Pain and Pleasure Island. It's an exercise that, again, I want to give you tools and things that you can be doing in your world. And it's an exercise that you can use to talk about any kind of change, you know, so we're going to be talking about, what does Pain Island look like? What are the challenges that individuals are facing, that leaders are facing, and that organizations are facing? And what does Pleasure Island look like? What's that aspirational destination we're trying to get to? Why is diversity and inclusion a good thing? What are the benefits to individuals? What are the benefits to leaders? And what are the benefits to organizations? So what I will invite you to do is to go into the Mural link that I shared. So if you just want to let me know if you're having problems accessing it. Can you still see the change canvas on the screen? Is that the screen that I'm sharing? Yeah. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. And if I can get if I can just hear from you, have you been able to get into the Mural, just let me know. Okay, I've got a thumbs up, which is great. So what I'm going to invite you to do is we're going to work on this together. So instead of me sort of sitting here and telling you what all the benefits of inclusive diversity and inclusion are, we're going to go into the Mural and we're going to have some quiet writing time. And I'm going to invite you to start adding post-it notes to the Mural. So I can see some animals. We're all animals for a moment. And in the reflection board, and I've given you a few examples to get you thinking, but on the reflection board, we're in Pain Island. So we're thinking about challenges. We're thinking about what are the problems that arise due to a lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what are some of the common challenges we might face when we're trying to create more diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what are some urgent problems that could be addressed by being more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And then on Pleasure Island, we're going to be looking at, well, what are the benefits? What benefits do diversity, equity, and inclusion bring? What does this aspirational destination look like? And what results or desired outcomes are we looking for? So normally we do this as a much longer exercise. Today, it's going to be sort of a quick insight into how something like this might work. So what I'd invite you to do is, if your name is in the second half of the alphabet, focus on the vision board, focus on thinking about what Pleasure Island looks like. And if your name is in the first half of the alphabet, focus on the reflection board and thinking about what are some of the challenges. So if I can see some cursors moving around to write on the post-it notes that are there, you just double click on them and then start typing. Okay, so if you've got any sort of technical problems with accessing the mural, just let me know. If you've got problems accessing the mural in the first place, again, just let me know. I can see some people with sort of pens. You don't need a pen, you literally just need to double click on the post-it notes and start typing. So I want to stop talking because I want to give you some quiet thinking time. Has anyone got any questions about the exercise or any technical challenges about accessing Mural? Or are we all good to continue? In which case I will pause and not speak for a moment.
Hiya. So I just joined here. Could you please reshare the link, or where could I get it?
No problem. So I'm sharing a bunch of useful links, and the mural is one of them. So let me just find the chat window. There we go. So the mural link is the top one.
Great, thank you. No
problem. Okay, so I will take your silence to mean you understand the exercise and you're ready to start thinking. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and we're going to see what we can collectively achieve together in 5 minutes. So the comment in the chat was about, will the presentation be shared? We're going to be sharing the recording. So if you want to watch this afterwards, that will not be a problem at all. I just have to comment on the power of diverse thinking right there. I'm giving you 5 minutes and I will give you 5 minutes, but within 2 or 3 minutes, we've almost completed all of these post-it notes. This is this is quite impressive. There's a lesson right there. I'll stop talking and we'll give you some more time to keep thinking. Okay, we'll give you a couple more minutes and then we'll reconvene our discussion. Okay, well, that was amazing. So we've still got a minute left, but we ran out of post-it notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring us back together again, and let's just have a look at some of the things we came up with. Now, the reason I did that exercise was threefold. One is because I want to teach you about inclusive leadership, and I want to make you think around when does it make sense to let everyone contribute, and when does it make sense for you as the leader to stand up and tell everyone how it is. And often as leaders, we speak too much. And actually, there's a lot of contribution that can be made in the room. And here, most of the people joined this call saying that they were a 3, so that they were aware, but they're not that advanced yet. Everyone's got something to contribute here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that says. The second reason was around, I want to get you active and participating. And also, I want to introduce you to the Change Canvas, which is one of the tools that we use at Diversity a lot. It's a tool that I'd encourage you to use to reflect on for your own personal leadership journey. And there's one of the links that I've shared. It is a Change Canvas filled with questions to get you thinking about who you are as a leader and who you want to become. So by doing this exercise, you're starting to get a sense of, what the Change Canvas is about. This exercise, we only looked at in the top half. If you were going to do this exercise, the Pain and Pleasure Island exercise with your teams, you would, once you've mapped this out, you would start in the progress board saying, well, what are we going to do about it? What does good look like? What are some of the things we can actually do? So why is the lack of diversity and inclusion a problem? Yes, of course, I've got slides that can tell you this, but let's see what, some of the things that you've come up with. From an organizational point of view, it's a challenge. It results in the lack of diversity and inclusion results in a poor culture. There's the Great Resignation, which means that people are leaving organizations, and it puts more pressure on organizations to be that right place. And in my session later on, I'm going to be talking about what people actually want. And it's not just money. There are a whole host of other things. Time is a challenge. Organizations are you're competing. You've got competing priorities constantly. There's a succession planning piece. There's a challenge around employee turnover. There's a challenge when we talk about diversity and inclusion. Often we always go with gender, whereas actually there's so many different facets to diversity and inclusion. One of the ones that's come up here is about generational difference and making sure that the workplace and our environments are relevant to everyone, no matter what age they are and what generation they come from. A group think, again, this is something we talk about a lot on our program. And a lack of diverse perspectives is limiting our organizations. It limits our ability to serve our customers. It limits our ability to innovate. It limits our ability to make great decisions. So from an organizational point of view, the lack of diversity and inclusion is a problem, and it's a critical lever for success. There are challenges for leaders, and you've highlighted a number of these. So one, the business desire to change. So there are many leaders who want to change, but we've got to move forward together. So we need the leadership all to be on board. Otherwise, it's very difficult to move forward. Fear of doing it wrong is one I hear all the time. And this is, I guess, what programs like the one that we run is about, giving people that confidence, because you'll never know all of the answers. And actually leadership is about being bold enough to take a step forward and maybe know that you might have got it wrong, but it's how you handle that. And it's about who you involve in those conversations. It's about how you make your decisions, and it's about how you show up with humility, but also with confidence and an open heart. Implementing change. So actually, it's all very well to talk about this, but what the challenge for leaders is actually doing it. Not having diverse viewpoints is a problem for leaders. So there's a certain lack of diversity. You can't just magic it up. Lack of ambassadors within the business, absolutely. And there's this balance with profit. Will it improve profit in the short term, or is it about building a great culture? And you're like, well, we need to recruit someone tomorrow, and therefore we're just going to take the people that are knocking on our door. And it presents challenges for staff as well. So people have a sense of a lack of belonging, feeling unseen, feeling excluded. The pay gap, ethnicity pay gap, gender pay gap are very real, and staff are feeling the brunt of this. They can feel restricted in their progression. They can feel that they don't have role models. I ran a focus group last week, and we were talking to people who from ethnic minority communities who were saying there just weren't leaders in top positions who looked like them, and they didn't feel that organization was somewhere where they could grow and thrive. They want to see people who they can relate to, who look like them, that they can aspire to be. There are communication challenges. So in about 4 minutes, it's taken me longer to read to you than it did for us to collectively gather these thoughts. Collectively, we've identified a huge number of challenges, of pain points, and this is why the need for diversity and inclusion is so pressing. But it's not just about confronting those challenges, it's also about moving to Pleasure Island. It's about the benefits that it can bring. So just to highlight a few of examples that you've come up with, it's around increasing revenue and profits, accessing a wider talent pool, driving loyalty, driving innovation, happiness, health, well-being, creating novelty, which is connected to innovation, entering new markets, being able to connect with different people in different areas. Those are enormous drivers for business. Aspirations for leaders, it's around that confidence in your decision-making, confidence in yourself as a leader, high performance, improvement through challenge. So we talk a lot in our program around psychological safety, but people don't challenge each other if they don't feel safe. It's as simple as that. So, but challenging each other is how we improve. Creating equal opportunities, connecting better with staff. We're humans. We want relationships. We want connection, and that drives success, that drives progress. And there are huge benefits for staff. So feeling valued, having development opportunities, feeling understood, being represented, enjoying work, and being a role model for future generations. So that's an amazing exercise. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you see why diversity and inclusion is so important. I hope this inspires you to want to open up conversations within your own organization, do similar exercises, keep the conversation moving. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and start again sharing my screen back on the slides. So if you can confirm that you can see my slides, that would be great. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. Okay, in which case, let us continue on our journey talking about inclusive leadership. So we've done this exercise, which I hope has been a more effective way of getting you excited and building your understanding of why does diversity and inclusion matter? Why should we care? I want to talk to you now about your journey as leaders, and having taken a number of, literally hundreds of leaders through our programs, we start to see the trends and what are the factors that affect people's ability to move forward on their journey. And these are things like their internal desire for change, their openness to think about whether you're wrong, the external pressures, your awareness of DEI that I spoke about earlier, your lived experiences, whether you face discrimination, your level of privilege, your beliefs and bias, and also your personal preferences. And again, this is something we can talk in a lot more detail on, but I wanted to get you thinking about that because it can help you think about your own readiness for change. And on that note, talking about readiness for change, when you are ready for change, you need to know where you're heading. And this is a roadmap that we use to help people understand what does that journey of inclusive leadership look like. And there are a number of steps on this journey. So it's about laying the foundation, understanding what diversity and inclusion is, why it matters. And there's some fundamental concepts you need to understand as inclusive leaders. It's about knowing where you are, knowing your own preferences, your own biases, your own privileges, your limiting beliefs. It's about understanding the experience of others. We can't move forward on this journey if you don't understand some of the challenges that groups of people are facing. We're all unique individuals, but there are trends that women experience certain things that men don't experience. People from certain cultural backgrounds experience things that people from other cultural backgrounds don't experience. There are trends, and you need to start to understand those to be an inclusive role model, which is what the next step is. And it's around developing your mindset, and we're going to be talking about mindset next, to be that inspiration to others, to behave inclusively and to inspire others around you. There are also a whole host of skills you can develop, core skills such as empathy, active listening, allyship, perspective taking, managing difficult conversations, and authentic storytelling. So there's some core skills that you can develop that will help you become an inclusive leader. It's also about then bringing that together to create inclusive teams. So inspiring healthy, high performance by fostering belonging and uniting across difference with shared values, a uniting purpose, and that psychological safety that I spoke about earlier, and that collaborative spirit, so that together as a team, you're achieving more, you're unlocking the collective brilliance in your team. And then finally, it's then about, I talked earlier around being an advocate and thinking about systems, systematic system change. And this is where you can embed inclusive practices. So in your hiring, in the way you run your meetings, one of our sessions on our program is all about meetings, the way you promote your products and services, your design, your culture and events, comes back to the can of Pringles. Once you start thinking inclusively, it isn't this event you run once a month on a Tuesday. It's something that affects everything that you do, and it changes all of your practices. So I encourage you to think about your own journey. The inclusive leadership change canvas is something that you can use to reflect on your own inclusive leadership journey. Think about yourself, others, and advocating for change. You can think about your own personal reflections, your aspirations, things that you could do, things that you will do, and things that you've already done that you can use as a foundation to move forward. So it's really about knowing who you are, why you want to change, what you want to achieve, and knowing how you can make it happen. And it's you can download it from the Diversity website for free. There's, in one of the links that I shared, there is a link to what we call our inclusion, the Change Canvas Inclusion Toolkit, and there are a whole host of templates in there that you can use to think about your own personal development, but also things you can do with your team. So I'm going to just share that set of links again for you. So whether you choose to come on this journey with us or whether you choose to do it by yourself, I encourage everyone on this call to do something. And it starts by that personal reflection and thinking about, what are the things that you can do? What are your areas for development? How can you take that step forward to become an ally? Who can you become an ally for? So what I'd like to turn our attention to now is mindset, because mindset is everything. Mindset affects 100% of your results, and this applies to life and business. When you truly, truly understand it, you can use it to inspire your own personal development, and the results, they can be extraordinary. Every result that you're producing in life and business is a direct result of your mindset. I just wanted to repeat that because it is so important. Now, the reason that unconscious bias training isn't delivering the real change within organizations to create more diversity and inclusion is because awareness is not enough. Inclusive leadership is about being brave enough, not only to understand your limiting beliefs, but to create new action loops that actually rewire your brain to get better results. So let me talk more about what I mean by belief shifting. And belief shifting is one of the most powerful tools that you can use to change your world and change the world of the people around you. Now, your beliefs affect your thoughts, which affect your feelings, which affect your actions, which determine your results. And your beliefs come from the meaning that you gave your very early childhood experiences. Everything you hear as a child is part of your belief system today. And we've got neural networks and they're built within our brains and they record all of our experiences that we have. And limiting beliefs are informed by our experiences. These beliefs are encoded into our brains and then they're used to help us reach and react in future situations. And these beliefs, they drive our subconscious behavior. They dictate our thoughts, our ideas on a moment-by-moment basis. They create the resistance that causes you to say no to things. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I don't feel confident about this. I'm not sure that someone with tattoos might be able to do this job. You know, they're these subconscious thoughts and beliefs. Now, we only pay attention to 12% of what's going on around us. When you're pregnant, as an example, and I appreciate this can't apply to everyone on the room in the virtual session. So another example might be when you're on crutches. If you're in a temporary situation, you suddenly notice how many other people are in the same position. So you're pregnant. Oh my goodness, I can see pregnant people everywhere. You're on crutches. Suddenly you notice other people who are in the same position. Your brain filters on what it considers to be important. So if you start noticing positive things rather than negative things, you start having more positive experiences. Positivity breeds positivity. You're choosing subconsciously what's important to you, and they're beliefs that you hold today that are preventing you from seeing the truth. That's the case for all of us, and this can be quite a difficult pill to swallow, but it's the reality. And it's because your beliefs are creating this invisible filter on what you're choosing to pay attention to. So to begin your journey to become a more inclusive leader, you've got to be prepared to ask yourself some really tough questions. And as I said before, it's not easy. So things like, what beliefs do I hold that are no longer serving me or are creating blind spots? And sometimes you need other people to help you answer these questions. What am I wrong about? And how are the people in my team really feeling? If you, for example, believe that diversity is not needed for success, you won't notice the blind spots in your all-male, white, straight, middle-aged, middle-class board. If you believe the extensive research that shows the benefits that board diversity bring to the performance of a company, you'll notice the lack of diversity in your board. And not only that, you'll be motivated to do something about it. You notice what is important to you. From a personal perspective, I didn't notice the lack of diversity in the tech sector. I didn't notice being the only female in the room again and again and again, because I didn't believe it was a problem. I now found it impossible not to notice the lack of diversity when I see it, because ultimately my beliefs have changed. Now, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're probably right. And if you grew up in a world that taught you that you weren't good enough, this will be embedded. And those beliefs could be connected to your unique personal circumstances and upbringing, but limiting beliefs also form as a result of racism, of sexism, of homophobia, of ageism. Let me tell you a story just to make this feel a bit more real, because I know this is quite a lot to process in many ways. I was talking to an American friend of mine recently, and he found himself in a terrible situation where his 14-year-old son became very ill and was admitted to hospital. And after many tests and much waiting and several visits, he found himself in a real quandary, as he didn't agree with the treatment plan that the hospital was recommending. He felt this tension building, and he'd always believed that the doctors know what they're doing, they should be trusted. And he decided to consult his very good friend, whom he'd known for years. He was at his wedding, and he was in fact the godfather of the sick child. Now, the good friend was Black, the person I was talking to was white. And his friend quickly responded to him. He said to him, don't trust the doctors. You've got to push for what you believe is right. And then he paused and he said something that my friend will never forget. He said, as a Black man, when I'm in hospital, I have this deep sense that my life is worth less than the lives of those around me. I don't trust the doctors will do the right thing for me. My friend was blown away by this statement. And ultimately, when you reflect on it, it comes down to beliefs. The early childhood beliefs formed by these men were very different. Those beliefs are directly influenced by their skin color and their experiences. As a white boy, he was taught to trust the doctors, the police, the lawyers. They're there to care for me and protect me. So I feel tension when I'm disagreeing with them. I can trust them. As a Black boy, I'm told I'm likely to experience discrimination and the world isn't fair. I'm taught how to navigate this unfair world, not simply to trust it. Now, the good news after that story, which is, it's very real and it's not an isolated experience, is that we can change our belief systems. And for the future of humanity, it's critical that we do. And we need to do the work to change ourselves, to change the broken systems that are influencing the beliefs of others. And we can change the systems, and we can change our beliefs. Unconscious bias is not this thing that we accept that we've got no control over because it's happening in our subconscious minds. We can bring conscious attention to our beliefs, and we can actually rewire our subconscious thoughts. Now, mindset is developing this capacity to rewire and restructure your brain. And it's the most important skill you can develop as a leader and as a human being. And due to the neuroplasticity of the brain, it means that it's a skill that can be learned. Your brain and your embedded beliefs can be shifted. So again, the change canvas is something that we use with people who come on our program to get them thinking about how your belief system is influencing the way that you lead. And what we help people do is uncover their limiting beliefs, define new empowering beliefs, and then find evidence to reinforce those new empowering beliefs and take action in line with those new beliefs, ultimately creating new neural pathways that drive success. And it's connected to nudge theory, where if when you're making decisions, you just take a check-in to understand what are the beliefs that are inspiring these decisions, you can start to become much more conscious of the beliefs that are driving the way that you operate. So let me make this a little bit more real with some examples of some beliefs. So an inclusive leadership mindset is all about moving from these limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs. So limiting beliefs might be, I need my team in the office for 9 to 5, 5 days a week for us to work productively. Whereas an empowering belief might be, I trust my team to do their job and progress is more important than presence. Another example might be the workplace is a meritocracy and the best talent will rise to the top. That could be a belief that you hold. Whereas you might shift that into a belief which says that systemic bias exists in the workplace and I need to be proactive in combating this. So if, for example, you're saying, well, I'm only ever seeing white men apply for the jobs. If you believe the workplace is a meritocracy and the best talent will rise to the top, well, you'll accept that and you wouldn't challenge it. You wouldn't try to do anything about it. If you believe that systemic bias exists and you're only seeing white men apply for your jobs, you would be thinking about creating equity. You'd be thinking about the different channels you could target. How can you make your job and your organization more attractive to the people who aren't naturally drawn to you? So I encourage you to take a screenshot of this because it's a gold mine of insight in terms of helping you think about what are those beliefs? How can you shift the beliefs that drive the decisions that you're making every day as a leader? And this is something that, again, we go into in a lot more detail. And it can be something that can be quite a hard pill to swallow because there could be some beliefs on the left there that that you hold dearly. And me here telling you that they're limiting is not necessarily an easy thing. So it's something to be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself, but also challenge yourself, and get into this reflective process of starting to understand yourself better. And similarly, you can do something with your team members. What are the limiting beliefs that people in your team might hold? I'm just here to do a job. Or do you want people in your team to think, I truly believe in our mission and I'm excited to play my part? Now, as a leader, you can influence their beliefs. You're not there just to set goals and measure objectives. You're there to inspire them. You're there to create the environment that they will thrive in. If you tell them that failure is not an option, and that's what they believe, they're not going to admit their mistakes. If, like, my son came home from school one day and told me that FAIL stands for the first act in learning, if that's what you teach your team, and you say, well, look, we need to use this as an opportunity to get better. We need to make sure that we don't make the same mistake twice. Your team will behave in a very different way. So again, I encourage you to screenshot this, to watch the video again, and to importantly take some time out for your own personal leadership development, because that's how we get better. That's how we get to know ourselves better, and we can challenge ourselves, and we can show up more effectively for our team. So with that in mind, I'd like to spend just the last few minutes of today's session talking to you about our leadership program. So I very much hope that today's session has been thought-provoking, and it will trigger some action within your world. I would be delighted if you wanted to join us on our journey, on our program. It's an open program that will be running. It starts in November. And it runs for about 3 months. It's very accessible. So we just have a virtual meeting between every 1 to 3 weeks. There's 6 core sessions that we run, and we come together for 2 hours. It's a moment out of your day, not like today, which is about me talking. I did try to make it interactive in terms of that one exercise to give you a flavor, but the group size is very, very much smaller. So it's about building meaningful connections. It's about, ultimately, success requires commitment. It requires accountability. It requires being challenged, but it also requires having that support. So whether you choose to join us or whether you choose to continue on your journey alone, think about how will you make sure that you've got that commitment, accountability. Where will you be challenged? Who will challenge you? How will you uncover your blind spots? And where will you get that support, that safety, to be able to build that confidence to move forward on your leadership journey? Now, the why now is important. We've spoken about the benefits of diversity and inclusion, but these benefits aren't new. They've always been the case. But why now? Well, because you're going to get left behind. The research now is conclusive. There are, so many different studies. People are no longer asking why, they're asking how. We're living in an increasingly diverse world. Social norms are changing, which means that you need to keep up. Staff, suppliers, and customers are expecting it, which means that you need to be thinking in this way to be able to serve them, to do a good job. And there's also the increasing complexity. So inclusive leaders are great at hearing from everyone and bringing together diverse perspectives and skills to solve complex problems. Back in the day, that one leader could sit at the top of the ivory tower and command and tell everyone what to do because maybe they understood it all. But with a geopolitical situation, with purpose becoming more embedded in organizations, wanting to have a social good, thinking about the technology that is a part of all businesses today, one leader cannot know it all. So in terms of our actual program, there are a few quotes here. I'm not going to read them to you, but you can have a look on our website. People come out of our sessions thinking they're eye-opening, they're life-changing, they're inspiring. They're backed by research and science. We focus on the areas that are proven to make the biggest difference. And I hope I've got this across today, but it's so much more than traditional unconscious bias training. We're moving from learning into action. So in terms of the offer that we've got for you, we have a satisfaction guarantee, which means that if you come on our program and you emerge after the all of the sessions, you've contributed, you've done the work, you've put the effort in, and you come to me and you say, look, I don't think I'm a better, more inclusive leader. We will work with you until you are. So we want to create a transformation. This hasn't happened yet, just for the record, but the point is that we're committed to creating a transformation in every single one of our participants. We want to work with you to help you become a better leader. For Bristech, we're also offering a pay what you can offer. Now, if you don't want to, we've got a few spots left on the program. As I said, we keep the group size small, so we have a limited number of spots. If you don't want to miss the opportunity, you can go online and you can buy your spot today. If price is a problem, we have a pay what you can offer where there's a limit, there's a minimum amount because it costs a lot of money to put on such an extensive program. But you can apply for one of those spots. The links, again, I've shared in the chat. I'll share them again. So what we do is we have these virtual sessions. It's all about action. So you come with concrete actions you can put in place. We share templates and frameworks. We give you insights and perspectives to help you create those breakthrough moments. We save you time by pointing you in the direction of insightful articles and useful links. And we create that safe, supportive, yet challenging environment that is so important for growth and learning. For many people, by signing up, it's the accountability that helps. We also pair you up with others to create accountability groups so that you're feeling committed, you're feeling accountable for what you're doing. And we also have participant-led coaching so that we focus on the topics that are important to you. So I hope that is exciting, interesting. You want to become a better leader, you want to feel more confident, you want to feel more capable, and I would love you to join our program. If it's not for you, that's totally fine too. The final thing I wanted to share with you is some ideas around the business case for diversity and inclusion, whether this is to invest in our program or whether it's just to make your business do more. This is important because we're on a shared journey. We're trying to drive change together, and the more that organizations can do to drive this change, the better. So the sorts of things that you can be thinking about are about retention, reducing recruitment costs, increased engagement, driving productivity, fewer blind spots, which results in better decision-making, more customer value, which results in bottom line revenue, and improved brand, which results in competitive edge, which also has a bottom line implication. So there's some food for thought for you in terms of the business case for diversity and inclusion and why it's so important to see it as an investment that will pay dividends. So whether you choose to join our program or whether you choose to go back to your organization and say, do you know what, I think we should be doing more, again, take a screenshot. I hope this slide will give you some thoughts around how you can position it. So that brings us to pretty much the end of today's session. I just wanted to leave you with some thoughts around some things that you can do, some practical steps that you can do. So step number one is about knowing your authentic why, talking about why diversity and inclusion matters to you from an authentic person place rather than from a business case stance will be more engaging for your team and will drive more change. Knowing yourself, we talked a lot about that today. Checking yourself, checking in to make sure that you really are behaving inclusively, checking in to make sure that you're not missing things, checking in to understand which beliefs are driving your behavior. A great thing that we can all do is diversify our networks. If we have more people who are different to us in our networks, we have more influences, which ultimately changes our belief system and it changes the way we see the world. And then finally, take intentional inclusive action. It's about being intentional. So I hope today has been helpful, useful, interesting, a moment to step away from the day job. We've talked about why inclusive leadership matters, the 5 stages to becoming an advocate for inclusion, what an inclusive leadership mindset looks like, your inclusive leadership roadmap, and I've given you an insight into our leadership program. I very much hope that some of you would like to join us on the program, and I look forward to hearing from those of you who would. I will leave you today with a hug, which is the hunger to do better, the urgency to take action now, and the inspiration to tap into your inner greatness. We all have that inner greatness, and we saw that briefly from the short exercise we did today. So with that in mind, I would love to get your feedback. It's in the links that I sent earlier. So I will share that again. The feedback link is the final link in the list of links that I've sent you. And I would be absolutely delighted if you would click on the link. It will take you 30 seconds, but when we put on events like this, it's always good on the subject of learning. I'm a deep believer in it. You know, it's great to hear what you've done well, but let's always improve. So I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I would love to thank you all so much for coming. I'm happy to stay on the line if anyone's got any questions, but I'm also conscious that we're 3 minutes over and I want to respect your time. So for those of you that need to leave, thank you so much and thanks for joining.